Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge, and I have a special guest here with me today, Steve Smith of Bingo fame.
I don't know about fame, but no
infamy.
No, try to be a good guy. No, I don't try to be a good guy. I am a good guy. Basically, I think if you can't get along with me, there's something wrong with you. That said, I'm not right all the time. Just most of the time. I'm kidding.
So what's
thanks for having me over, Nick.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Anytime. The door is mostly always open, except when it's closed and locked.
Well, that's probably when I'd want to come. Nick told me he wanted me to talk about how we met. And, he touched on that in his first ever podcast I listened to. And it was through his wife. We got chatting about stuff at work, and I said something about pinball. And his wife, Molly, goes, "Pinball? Do you know Medieval Madness?" And it's like, my eyebrows went down. Wait a minute. I'm getting suckered in here. And so, she told me Nick was into video pinball. They didn't have any real games. They didn't have room for them, and their house was smaller than mine. And so that I finally met him, invited him over to play, and of course he came, and we had a big time. And like he said in his first podcast, played the flipper games and went out back. Have you seen these things? No. I said, well, these are called bingo pinballs, and these were gambling machines. And he played them, and I gave him some, spoon fed him a little bit, just a little bit of, a little at a time. And he plays them a little bit, and I can see he's looking at his thing like this. These are cool, but they're just a bit too cerebral. Now, I'm like, okay, he didn't get it. And a couple more sessions. Hey, I went over to his place and played some video pinball and confirmed he didn't have room for machines. He didn't. His house was smaller than mine.
Didn't stop me though, did it?
Well, I was part to blame, or credit or blame me, either way.
I'd say both. Yeah.
I perused Craigslist like a lot of us pinheads do, and Nick, I know he needs a game. He knows he needs a game. Hey Nick, here's a nice game on Craigslist. What do you think? And I don't have room, man. Let's just go look at it. Well, he ended up getting it. He didn't have room. Ended up in his living room. At night, and we set it up and played it, and I think it had an issue or two. And on the way out, I looked at Molly. I said, "Molly, I promise this will be the only one." Tongue in cheek. And now he's got, how many? You got 7?
11.
11. Okay, stand corrected.
Somewhere in there.
And created a monster. But anyway, back to the bingo stuff.
Yes. One
day, he's over playing, and we're back in the shop, and I'm showing him how the feature stuff works, and this is intriguing him a little more because it's getting a little more.
Up to that point, we'd been talking about odds and how to make 3, 4, or 5 in a row, but not really how to make section winners or those kind of things. Okay, games, any of that. You were really keeping it slow and simple there for me.
Well,
which I appreciate. I'm slow and simple.
No, you're not. And it's just, it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
With stuff. Now I'm a certified kitchen designer, and when you do stuff all the time, it's easy to rattle off all kinds of things, and then people's eyes glaze over because you're giving them too much too fast.
Right.
And that was the idea. And since I've been doing that for so long, and knowing how complicated these games are to play, that was the my motivation for behind spoon feeding it. So anyway, we get into the sectional stuff and the feature part of the games, and after he understood the basics, and then so he's playing along, and he got a decent hit in a section. I can't remember what it was. He got 100 something.
20.
120? Okay, there. Okay. You remember?
Something.
Yeah, one of those two. And then, so we're playing Golden Gate. And I think the next game, or shortly after that, he gets the gate lit on Golden Gate. Well, that's the qualifier game for winning the Golden game. You don't win any credits with that purple section. Nick covered that in one of his podcasts. And so he hits that. He gets the purple section lit, gate lit. Then a rare event. The teaser light for 2 in the gold comes on while the purple section. I could never get my game to do this. I never had it happen in the wild. I'd have one or the other lit, but never both. And it's like, I'm like, whoa! You know, I'm standing back and planting my feet, and I'm getting ready.
It's getting excited.
And so I coach him through the purple section, and he gets it. And I'm like, crazy, cool, excellent. Hold the button down, and it dumps, and here's the golden game. And he hits the golden game for 200 or 300, I don't remember which. And credits are racking up. And I watched it in his face. It's just like a curtain came up. And he looks at me, I get it. These things are cool as heck. And a new bingo guy was born. And so after that, youthful exuberance takes over. And Nick wants to get a bingo. I don't remember if you had moved then or not. You never.
No.
Moved? Okay, well.
But I had an extra place to put one.
And so he ends up talking to this guy that I had talked with years ago, been invited out to play, Lawrence something. Mm-hmm. And Lawrence had games he wanted fixed, and he contacted me to fix them. It's like, man, I got so much to do, and I got my own game stuff to do, and I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to help a guy, but
right.
I'd rather help him, talk him through it, or kind of thing. And so Lawrence wanted to unload some of his games. He had some in his game room. He told me over his garage with a pool table, and then had others in his garage that were in waiting for restoration or repair or whatever. And so Nick went over and bought his double up.
Yep.
And gentle warning to him, these aren't as much fun, but
the 20 holes.
Yeah, the 20 hole. And but he's new and he got it for a decent price, and so a project. And I had weekends to come over and help him get, work on this and work on that. And finally, I think he's got it pretty much all bug free and looks nice sitting over there. And I had my bikini, which if you're bingo guys, most of them, a lot of them have seen my slideshow that's on Phil Hooper's site. Oh, and by the way, Phil Hooper, I looked at it the other day. Phil Hooper kind of updated it. It used to be on a link to it was on the front page of his home page.
Yep.
And now it's not. He's kind of just taking the older dated stuff and.
He moved you to the back, huh?
Well, he put me in the overhaul section. So if you look in the overhaul, you'll find
which there's a link on the left-hand side.
Yes. And so that's how you can find the thing if you haven't seen it. It's a pretty interesting story. Captions tell a story. And when I first did it, the captions were with the photographs. Now they're not. You kind of can't do the slideshow. You should click from one to the next. Interesting story, I think, all the way through.
And I had watched that. You had sent that to me, I think, before I picked up my first game. And you said, take a look at this. And actually, before I came out the first time, I think. You sent it home with Molly or something. I don't know. But I had taken a look at that, and that got me interested, seeing what you'd done there. And your bikini and Golden Gate are beautiful now. I mean, they are stunning.
I've seen a lot of bingos, and those two are the best looking ones I've ever seen.
Just to be humble about it, is that?
Well, no, I'm not, man. I'm really am not a hey, it's all about me thing. But you are interviewing me, so I gotta, I'm just telling you.
You gotta get that in somewhere, huh?
Somebody once said it's okay to toot your horn once in a while, and then the other adage, analogy, or whatever it is the nail that beats sticks his head out gets beat back down. So,
right.
Anyway,
you get a little bit of both.
I just like stuff. If I think something's cool, I want to share it.
Yeah.
And a lot of cool stuff. I've done a lot of cool stuff and seen a lot of cool stuff, and I don't want to go, hey, look at me, I did this, and hey, I did that. I go, hey, look at this cool thing that I happen to be near. Right. And it's really not about me. It's about whatever the cool thing
Topic is. Right. Yeah.
Just like you with getting bit by bingos and pinballs and going from no room to 11 games. Just one at a time. And so the slideshow is a really cool story. It's all true. Every bit of it's true. And that's more about the game. It's about the game. It's not about me. It's about that particular machine. That bikini's number is 1518. Off the production line, all the serial numbers matched. They were they were tampered with on the cabinet and the head and the stamp on the play field there by the light post, the third light post from the bottom on the shooter side, or second from the top, whatever. That's where they stamped them. That had been tampered with, and I did a repair on that. It's shown on that slideshow. But up at the top, at the ball arch, it had been painted over. Obviously, they didn't want to take that nail punch and make a big rough spot, so they just kind of painted it. I got that paint over and found out that number, and then I was able to look at these other tampered numbers on the other thing and figure out that yes, these are all good. They're all good. Now I think if you tear down a play field and you get all the wood off around the outside, the bottom lower section where your instruction cards are at, underneath there's another number. Anyway, that said, I got this thing all together, and I'm gonna say it very well could be the most famous bikini bingo pinball machine in the known universe because of its publicity. It was taken to the New York show in 2011, I think it was.
Yep.
And I go with Jeffrey Lawton. He and I hang out at these shows. I met him, I can't remember, 2003 or 4 or something like that, at my first York show. Anyway, that evening of the show, Saturday night after the show was over. That's what it was. We're in the hotel. We're supposed to go out and get dinner. And Jeffrey is writing an article on the show for Pin Game Journal. Jeffrey has been the bingo editor for this, and I think it was Coin Slot and some other stuff, other coin operated games for years before I met, of course. And after we met, we just clicked, and we've been friends ever since. We'll call up and talk about stuff and not even mention pinball. But he wrote this thing, and then about a year later, the Pin Game Journal came out, and this is issue number 151, and it says it's dated September 2012, and it's the write-up Jeffrey did on on the show. Well, my bikini, he's a bingo guy, and so the bingo, that was the only really cool bingo. It was got a lot of notoriety there. Actually, it's a very, very popular game at that show. And he wrote an article about it, and it shows pictures of it. And Vic Camp, I've been bragging on RGP. I said a little something about it. Hey, I just finished this restoration. I'm bringing it up to the show, and so when on the way, apparently Vic Camp, who's a pretty well-known player, and I'd met him several years before, and seen him a few times, talking on the phone, and good storyteller and listener, and bingo player. He had posted on RGP. Steve, bring that thing, set it up, and get that tilt bob set so I can shake it to victory. I'm gonna bust it for 600. And that's exactly what he did. And so this magazine article's got, talks about the show. It talks about my game in particular, and Vic hitting it for his prophecy. His prophecy came true.
He fulfilled it. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, holy cow. And so that's that thing, but that's kind of already known.
I think it's a great story, though.
I do too. I think it's an awesome story. And another story about York. There was the guy I bought my bikini from. Was in Lynchburg. Now, somewhere on Danny Leach's site. Hi, Danny. I had forwarded my first correspondence to Jeffrey. And this quick little note, how I identified myself. I've read your book. Thank you so much for reading it. After reading it, I got so fired up, I had to play. Well, you can't find them to play. I didn't know any collectors. And so I put an ad on Mr. Pinball Classified, and looking for a working bingo pinball, magic screen pinball machine within 300 miles of Richmond, or 200, I can't remember. And after a little while, I got an answer from James Say in Lynchburg, Virginia. And so we corresponded a little bit, and he said, I've got several, and he listed them all off. And he had Golden Gate, he had a couple of Miss Americas, different ones, Miss America 75, and a couple others, and a Bounty. I think he had a 6-card or 2, Bikini, Golden Gate. I'm like, Golden Gate, that's what I used to play back in Earl's. And I got some stories about playing at Earl's. But anyway, so I go up there. He tells me the price, and I'm not going to negotiate. I'm just, guy's got to make a buck. I get it. I'm not going to get gypped. And so he wanted $300 for the Golden Gate and $200 for the Bikini. And the Golden Gate had a busted back glass, but they all worked with bugs. They had some bugs. And I went on and said, I'm going to get the Bikini. And part of this was reading stuff on Danny's site back then, when it was still kind of new. And we had Old Bingo's Forum. That thing was incredible. And then Nick never got to see it.
Yeah, apparently it went down right before I got into bingos.
Well, I think it beat you by a couple of years or something.
Oh, it did?
But yeah, man. And it was, oh, holy cow. It was just incredible amount of bingo information on that thing. I wish it had been archived. I know a little bit of inside stuff on that. I can share it later, or later episodes if you wanted to put up with me again. But so I think it was Vic Camp's inspiration, talking about home use only, which is the preferred. And I read it more than once. It wasn't just Vic's; it could have been Jeffrey's stuff too. And it could be in his book. I don't have it memorized. And so I got the bikini. And, oh God, I was so happy. And this thing was on that metal crate. If you've seen the slideshow, it was pretty poor shit. It was filthy dirty. It worked. Couldn't get an extra ball out of it. Anyway, so I emailed Jeffrey this note, thanking him for it, writing a book. I got so fired up to play, I had to find one. When I found this bikini, I got it home, and well, I've had back surgery. I can't pick up but so much. You know how much these things weigh, a freaking ton. And so the head wasn't off of it. We had just slid it off that angle iron stand thing into the back of my pickup truck. And I called a couple people over, and neighbors and stuff. And while I was waiting for them, I ran an extension. I slid the thing out to the edge of the tailgate. Ran an extension cord, plugged it in, turned it on, and started playing it before I got it out of the truck.
Couldn't wait.
And, you know, bingo players shake a truck. Or, no, I was shaking the truck, yeah. I was holding the game, but it was shaking the truck, and I was tilting all the time. But I was playing, man. It's cool. And so we got the thing in there, weighed a ton. Showed the neighbors the inside of it. Oh, my God, look at this stuff. No wonder it's so heavy. And so that's how I got the bikini. Well, years later, Mr. Say contacts me. No, wait a minute. In between then, I went up and bought another game from the guy. It was a Slugfest pitch and bat. William Slugfest is, got a DMD. It's a freaking fun game. If you like baseball, this thing is like almost like being at the game. It's really good.
Is that the only solid state pitch and bat?
I don't know.
I don't know.
If I don't, it's the best one. You know, if there's another, this one it's just really good. Really, really good. 2-player is just like holy cow. Everybody that plays it liked it, but it, you know, like a lot of pins, it lost its sparkle after a while. But I went up and bought that from him. He contacted me. Could have been, I don't know how much later, a little bit later, on a month or a year or something, a couple months or a year. And Steve, I want to get some of these bingos out of here. Here's what I got. And I said, well, okay. I wasn't really going for one, but how much you want for the Golden Gate and the Bounty? And he fires back $100. I said, I'll give you 50. He said, okay. So that's 50 a piece. And both these work. Both of them have broken back glasses, and they're, you know, there's so much dirt. That Golden Gate was the dirtiest game on the planet.
So all three of the ones you bought had broken back glasses?
Bikini did not. Bikini had good, had a mirrored back glass. But that ended up dying in the man shop because of the not being in constant climate control.
Yeah.
So everything you've heard about that stuff is true.
Yep.
Anyway, so we go. My friend Eddie and I went up to the show, York show that year. I can't remember. Actually, it's recorded on the Pinball News show site, whichever year it is. I can't remember now. And we get up to the show, and I'd already talked to Jeffrey. I knew what he was bringing. He brought a Golden Gate and a Bounty to play.
Huh.
And so we're playing those things, and there's a picture of Jeffrey and I standing in front of his two games, and the Bounty and the Golden Gate. And I think he was asking 11 or 12 for the Gate, and 14 or 16 for the Bounty, 100. And so after the show, Eddie and I take a trip back to Virginia, but we go down 81, so we're going to Lynchburg. It was a long freaking ride, and we were getting on each other's nerves by then, but it wasn't personal. It was just road crankiness. And then so we get there and we buy these two games for $50. I thought we had a deal. And so I cleaned up Golden Gate a little bit, tweaked it, got it working 100%, and played it in a dirty fashion for a long time. I put a back glass on it, paper sandwich back glass, and so I thought that was a pretty cool story. Here they are, we're playing games at the show, and then we go back and buy them for $50, load them up. Now Eddie took a bounty, and with intentions of, getting a back glass, and which you can't. Bounty's back glasses are elusive. I do know that Franz over in the Netherlands has a warehouse, and he's got a small box of 5 or 6 of them, something like that.
Yeah.
He told me about, and but he's reluctant to ship them, and it's a valuable item.
I understand.
Yeah. And so he ended up getting a paper one from Chris Dade, and so this bounty working, but needing, some work. He had 100% sat in storage, waiting for me. Eddie wasn't going to do anything with it, and I said, "Well, if you don't want it, I'll take it. Look, this guy contact. Oh, that's another story. I'm gonna pause that story right there. And that's how this bounty that Nick ended up buying the bounty. I'm sitting right next to us, right there, and he's got it working. It's his favorite. Is it your favorite game, or is it your favorite bingo?
It's the one that I play the most, and it's certainly my favorite bingo at the moment.
Uh-huh.
But of course, I haven't played them all,
Mm-mm.
so it's hard to say. And I would say that I've never played a bingo that I didn't like. So there is that.
You need to get around a little more then.
Yeah, I think so.
They're all interesting
For different reasons.
Some of them will lose their sparkle. Now, Nick sent me an email the other day. Said, hey, there's on Craigslist, there's a 6 card and a bonanza. And I told, and he said, I'm thinking about making an offer. And he's sending me this because he wants me to know. So it's not really an unsolicited editorial comment. It's just, he knows I play more variety than he has. I am not a 6 card guy. I know Vic is. I know there's a guy just outside of Richmond that's got I think he's got 6 or 8 games, all of them 6 card in his garage near a friend of mine's house. I have not met the guy. I think we've corresponded a couple times on electronic mail, but I'm just not a 6 card guy. I like it because it's bingo. But
yeah. Well, variety's the spice of life, Steve.
Yes, I get it. I understand. And everybody doesn't think in lockstep.
It's true.
That's the way it is. Everybody likes different stuff. And so between that, I said, you get him. He'll probably end up getting a 6 card, but I don't think the bonanza will last. The sparkle's going to wear off quick.
Yeah, if I was to get a Magic Squares game, I'd probably get a Nightclub or Showtime, something like that. But
may I recommend?
Yeah.
One, because of cosmetics, gameplay, and Sun Valley.
Oh yeah, I played that at the York show to death.
That one's got those magic screen. It's got the magic
lines,
and magic squares,
mm-hmm.
and it's pick a play. I think it's pick a play. Can't remember. There's the book. I can't keep up with all of it. Some stuff comes right out, other stuff doesn't. And so if you can find one, I would think you'd get the most fun out of it. That one's got staying power. You
can move every number on the back glass if you have it lit up to F.
Pardon me, correct. That's right. And so I wish you would consider that one.
It's also got one of the most beautiful stencils, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. And there's the trouble with that stuff is you get a game lined up, you really can't see the artwork that well. Yeah. Everybody knows that already. But even the front is nice. And so if you were thinking about a Magic Corner game, that would be one that's in my lineup of wouldn't mind owning. But I'm kind of stopped. You look at that thing. It's pretty. We're looking in Jeffrey's book here now. And is that Joe Joyce's?
From Jeffrey's collection.
It's from Jeffrey's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Joe Joyce is a friend of Jeffrey. He lives out in Cincinnati near Jeffrey. I've talked with him a few times, corresponded him a little bit on electronic mail. Nice guy. And I'm wondering if maybe we can give him an interview or two.
Sure.
At some point.
Skiing in swimsuits. That's a good idea.
Hey, I love it.
It is a fun game, though.
That would be, if you want a Magic screen game, I'd say that'd be about the tops for them. That's what I think, anyway. That's just an opinion. Everybody's got different likes and dislikes. Now, yesterday was an interesting day. I've got an article here that I wrote for Pin Game Journal. And those folks out there that subscribe to Pin Game Journal know you're not getting any magazines. Jim's health has been an issue. It was for a while. Clay Harrell took over, wrote a few, and then they ended up locking horns or something according to RGP. And so we're not getting any Pin Game Journals. I hope Jim is working through whatever's wrong with him. But I met him at Expo several years ago. We spent, I don't know, a half hour or something talking about this and that. I said, I got an idea of, if you're willing, I'd like to write a article, or a couple of them, on bingo pinball. He said, because he knew that Jeffrey and I were okay, friends. Well, I told him that. He didn't know it. And he's like, I got the blessing. So I had started writing that, and I was going to write a little article on the trip Jeffrey and I took down to Hugh Cone, a.k.a. the old Binger place, as well. That article I started writing, and it was normal pinball versus bingo pinball. That it is from a player's perspective. And I've got that article here that I started writing, and I never finished it. I had most of it in there, but it's a jumbled up mess and unorganized. So yesterday I spent a few hours trying to get it in coherent order. But I had yesterday was a bingo pinball day, but I didn't play at all. Earlier in the week, I had been contacted by somebody that just got their first game, and this happens often. Not that I am not an expert. I do not know everything about these things, but I do know people that do. But I know a lot, way more than I surprise myself often. And so this one guy I got this and new game. He got a roller derby, and he was talking about it. And
was it the guy we met at York?
No.
Okay. Different guy.
I don't think it was. This guy's name is Greg, starts with an O, and I can't remember because I'm getting older. Anyway, so I helped him. I gave him some advice on his stuff, and I think I got him going a little bit. Not much. It's just lamp-oriented mostly. And I said, if you need, I'll try and help. And so, anyway, and right after that, I got an email from a guy who has several write-ups on Danny Leach's site. He lives in Denver. His name is Phil Bergoma. Is that it? Yeah, okay. Phil. We're going to call him Phil. It's not Phil Hooper. Phil Bergoma. He's a nice guy. Super nice guy. He had contacted me about getting some of my reproduction lockdown bars. Well, then I told him, sorry, man. Dennis Odell bought my last two several months ago. If I make another batch of these things, there's no labor of love in it. They were labor of love in it for restoring my game, so I made a few extra. But anyway, so we got talking and I said, I've read your stuff. You played like I used to in the old days. And I can get into that in at some point. But anyway, so I told Phil, I said, I'd love to chat with you. Got a new bingo friend. Is it okay to send me your phone number and a good time to call? And he did, so it was yesterday. Well, we got Denver. He's in Denver. I'm here. So anyway, after I've worked on this magazine article I got here, I talked with him, called him, and we were on the phone for an hour. Now, Phil said he'd come on your podcast thing, so you got to figure out how to get it sound right on the phone. Jeffrey, told him about it. He wants to come.
Absolutely.
Or play or talk or what. I don't think he's coming. Maybe we can get him to come. I don't know.
Well, that would be excellent.
And anyway, so Phil was really involved with Old Bingers Forum. He was one of the moderators.
Oh,
back then.
okay.
And he did a lot of. Phil's an accountant, and he did a bunch of digitizing SI cards and other stuff. And he and Phil were collaborating on back glass scanning and stuff. Now, when Jeffrey and I went down to Hugh's place years ago, and I got the videos of Hugh showed me a full-size Bounty scan. The quality wasn't quite what it ought to be. A little fuzzy looking, and it wasn't on anything you could shine light through. But he's got that file. He said he sent me a smaller version of it, and I said something to him about your Bounty having one of Chris Dade's in there, and he said, "Well, I can send it to him if he's computer kind of guy. He can clean it up and use it." And so that'd be up. That's another topic for another time.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that before for other games, and it'll.
Well, he's got one that's almost done. So if you feel like that one's not suiting you, it looks okay to me. I don't know.
It works. It's just not quite as bright as it could be, I think.
I think if you put it on vinyl, or not vinyl, or Mylar.
There's a Mylar material that I printed mine on, and that seems to work best for the color.
Yeah, I think it would be a little cleaner looking, smoother.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said he was willing to do that.
Cool.
And he'd be willing to be interviewed on your show. He had 31 bingos at one time. He's down to 7 now. He's doing a basement remodel and trying to get that. Invited me out. So he'd be willing to come on your podcast.
Excellent.
Jeffrey, Danny, I contacted Danny Leach. He said yes, and I said, well, cool. Can I talk to you Saturday? Through email, and I didn't get an answer, so I didn't call him. But I was doing other too, and so old and forgot. And I contacted Phil Hooper. He passed. He said, I can't finish a complete sentence. All that stuff on his website. I guess you don't have to finish a complete sentence. You can go back and retype it. Dennis Odell, famous pinball guy, man. He's all over IPD, all over the bingos stuff. Been around, but he didn't like talking on the phone. Now, that said, I've talked to him. He didn't want to talk to me on the phone, but I talked to him on the phone anyway a couple times, and he did great. I don't understand it, but that's Dennis, and super nice guy. Super nice guy. Phil's a super nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Shop out in Utah. Oh, sorry, don't hit the thing. Joe Shop out in Utah. Super nice guy. I talked with so many of them, and so we get a few more stories in on these things.
Yeah.
But I was getting back to this article here. I got most of it written, and I'd like to read it.
Please.
To everybody, since it doesn't seem like we're going to get a Pin Game Journal out anytime soon. And it's interesting stuff. Now, this is written to go in Pin Game Journal, which most is not a bingo pin game journal. It's a pin game journal, so most of the guys are pinball related, not that much into bingos. And so this was kind of written with the intent of filling them in a little bit, trying to get our hobby not die off. And so here we go. I'm just going to read it. Read what I got in here, and I may ad-lib a little bit once in a while. Pinball is entertainment. Yes, it's a business for some, a hobby for others, and some an obsession, but it still falls in the entertainment category. We play pinball to be entertained. We get a thrill out of it. The thrills in normal pinball, flippers, games, come from the action. The thrills from playing bingo pinball come from drama. Both normal pinball and bingo pinball players experience several emotions during gameplay: anticipation, joy, satisfaction, disappointment, frustration, and sometimes downright anger. Tension and concentration tend to magnify these feelings. However, bingo players get to experience a few more feelings. While we are playing, we can often feel puzzled and indecisive. And I guess the hardcore gamblers that got on these things would feel desperation and possibly even depression. But the most notable feeling a bingo pinball player gets that normal pinball players don't is pure elation when we make a big hit for a payout. Now, I own both types of pins, and yes, destroying the ring is a thrill, but that's nothing close to playing a bingo. And you got a set, and then you pass the number needed for a big hit, and the number's at the bottom of the play field. And you pass that number 2 or 3 times, making it into the ball return. You try for it again, and you're getting tenser every time this ball goes down. And then the ball's coming down one last time. And you're skillfully getting it past all that stuff one last time with a well-timed nudge and landing the ball into the needed hole for a big hit. Holy cow. I mean, guys, everything you've got is tensed up. I call these drama balls. If you play, you know exactly what I mean. Then there was the satisfying glory of calling a shop owner over and having him count out the folding money on the playfield glass while the replays you just won are clicking off. Though, I guess normal pinball tournament players get a taste of what we bingo players had all the time back then. Now, in general, why I think normal pinball players are reluctant or dismiss bingos is here, and this is just my observation and opinion. Look, America was once an agrarian-based society. It moved to an industrial-based one. To me, today's society seems more entertainment-based. Pretty much everything you do is on a screen. You're looking at your computer screen, you're listening to this thing on your pod or streaming or whatever. It's just a guess, but it's through my observation. And I believe many of these younger folks, being raised with a lot of television exposure, its constant flashing from image to image, conditions them to always expect things to be moving, that everything's supposed to happen fast. And this is a big contributor to their lack of patience I believe this lack of patience is the number one reason for them thinking bingo pinball is dull. Because pinball is a slower pace. And to do well, you have to pause and to think. Normal pinball's entertainment is playing a game with no real ending, other than ones like hay burners and a few other time games. You can make the replay, beat the high score, but the game keeps going until all the balls are drained, and then it's game over, not game completed. With bingo pinball, every game has an ending. Most games on the same table are different, plus it can be beaten. Now, playing strategies. Now, this would go for any pinball, flipper, bingo, on location, or even home use for that matter. Here's how I play and why. I start with caution. It's a new game, walked up to a new game. I start with caution. I try a single game to check how the game plays, how lively the rubber is. I note the pitch of the play field. I see if switches and coils are working, and last but not least, probably first, is the tilt sensitivity. Same holds true for bingos, especially the tilt. Other than plunge speed, well-timed bumps, pulls, shakes, or doing nothing at all are the only way to control the ball. With normal pinball and bingo pinball, knowing how much you can manhandle the table is essential for getting the most out of the ball in play. I believe bingo players tend to be more in tune with this aspect of gameplay, since it's all we've got to work with. On normal pinball, bingo players may often make a shot or save a shot. Others may miss due to this instilled reaction. Bingo players usually have learned how to bop the heck out of the table once and have gauged how long they need to wait to let the pendulum rest. Although spending time on any pinball machine, you can develop a sixth sense for the tilt's pendulum swing rhythm and are able to bring in another well-timed nudge before that pendulum settles down, and do that without tilting. I have a tilting problem, and I like it, actually. It's fun. Normal pinball strategy can be keeping the ball alive as long as possible, going for a replay, going for a high score, activating a mode, and getting into multi-ball for racking up high scores, concentrating on completing modes and multi-balls when equipped to reach those elusive wizard modes. However, any way you play a normal flipper pinball, they are all designed with pre-established rule sets to follow. Other than an occasional pick this or pick that, you must follow this one rule set. And if all goes well, we do all this just to drain at the end. On the other hand, for the most part, bingo pinball has a variety of rule sets. You are able to choose different ways to play different games. The bingo pinball player has decisions to make all the way through. You start building your game by playing the machine itself, not feeding the table the first ball. Savvy players, now this is kind of stuff that I did back when I was playing for keeps back in the day, and many of them did too. Although I saw players that went for the big stuff straight away. Savvy players fed the least amount of credits to obtain the best odds and features. Since they are engineered to give out less when the odds and features have been activated, there is a learning process to this. Knowing how many credits to use is applying your first play strategy. Then a player, well, let me stop there and just ad lib a little bit. How I played for keeps back in the day after I learned what I was doing mostly. And they didn't have any money as a kid, 15, 16, 17, something like this. I had to be careful with it. Was playing a Golden Gate, and my ideal game cost 15 cents. I would hit the red button, restart it, hit the blue button, get a double jump, guaranteed odd.
Right.
And then I'd hit the blue button again. And my ideal game, I'd get another double jump on the red odds. Because that top row on the magic screen was easiest to land in. Now, that's 15-cent game. And the numbers were relatively easy to get to 1, 2, 9, 11, 15. 15 being a little more difficult because of the post over. That said, that was the money maker. 4 in a row with 96 games. And that's where you made your money. I would use house money, little hits, get up a few games, and then I'd try for some bigger stuff. But usually he made the money on 4 in a row. Now this is, if you go back and go to Danny's site, read Phil Begoma's stuff. That's how he played. It's cool. You could tell he knew what he was doing.
So that's part of the reason I haven't converted my machines to free play, is it makes me think about how much money's going in versus what the return will be.
Mm-hmm.
So, like on Bounty, I typically don't get the odds above 200. It just costs too much money.
Mm-hmm.
Because my reflex units are hooked up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's playing the machine there. I've just learned that it's much harder to get those extra jumps after about 200.
They all got their own nuances. Some of them, and that reflex unit plays into it. I didn't know that stuff when I was playing for keeps back in the day. I just noticed it. I'd never even seen the inside of it. The operator would come in and, hey, can we see in this thing? Well, it was in a back room of a diner. Diner's still there. It's a Pizza Hut thing now. The typical looking diner is open for breakfast and lunch. Martin Earl Perks, he was the owner. He's had a dirty apron on, and he's a nice guy. And anyway, we couldn't get to see the inside of the back box because the operator would come in, check a meter, and I said, well, can I see inside the thing? And so what's that thing? He said, that's a tilt. I said, can you make it so it doesn't tilt so easy? He lowered it for us. It was cool.
Wow, that's a nice operator.
Yeah, he lowered a little bit. He said, Anyway, so that's it. I don't know if Earl knew that, but so anyway, back to my article. Okay, knowing how many credits to use is applying your first play strategy. The player must decide which set of numbers they will most likely be able to hit to win the most credits. This is usually based on their layout both on the play field and the bingo card. Some numbers are easier, some aren't. Strategy and decisions are needed for every ball played. This is where it slows down. If you don't know how to play the game, this is probably what just bores the younger folks away from it. All right. Strategy. Granted, you could just shoot the balls and see what happens. If this could be called a strategy, then I guess it would be the same one used for a slot machine or a lottery ticket. The hope I get lucky strategy involves no skill, no real decisions to make other than just dropping some money or not. When playing normal pinball or bingo pinball, you notice trends in several aspects of each individual pinball table. By this I mean not only how the ball bounces, but with what frequency. Oh, well, this would be more
bingo.
bingo related. So it's not fully edited. By this I mean not only how the ball bounces, but with what frequency the odds and features activate. If you play one bingo pinball table for a little while, you'll see vague patterns in what is likely to light up, and notice other things get harder to light when this is already on. I know I need to spend away too many credits to get that when I've already got this lit. That's what you were just saying there, Nick. So it's best to stop feeding it and start the second part of gameplay, shooting the balls. Now, your second session of decision making starts. You check the back glass, note where the highest scoring number combinations are. Normally there's several to choose from. Strategy for playing each ball has many facets. Some include our needed number holes, mostly near the top of the playfield. If they are, it's usually a good thing, since this location means you don't have to get past a bunch of other obstacles to land there. Next would be if there's a post just above the needed numbered hole. The post obviously blocks the ball from just plunking right in on its way down. The pitch of the playfield can affect these decisions too. A slight pitch means the ball is slower. Steeper pitch, faster. I've talked with players that like steeper pitch. I can get past all this upper stuff down here where more numbers are at. Well, that makes sense. That's their way they play. I like a little more control. A slower ball means more control. You can transfer the ball. Slowing it up with a well-timed tug just as the ball meets a bumper, or adding energy to the ball with a bump at the same time, and a bump of proper strength to either make the ball all the way to the needed hole or keep it away from an unneeded one, or as a setup for a second bump to make your needed number. But this setup bump, and I do a lot, can be risky. There's a kind of a sixth sense with this stuff that's needed. It comes into play because you're flirting with a possible tilt. This is where your first few game tests will have helped out, since you've learned the general speed of the ball with the tables, playfield, and pitch. You know the liveliness of the rubbers, rebound, and the sensitivity of the tilt. All those are just little nuances in how I play. Not playing the machine, playing the balls. Now, here's a big difference. One of the biggest differences in bingo pinball versus normal pinball. In normal pinball games, you don't want to drain the ball and play. An exception may be answering the call of nature, or someone yelling fire, or even a hot babe hitting on you. I can see wanting to drain for that. But bingo, when playing bingos, you'll often try to drain if your ball is past a needed number on the play field. And so here I've made a note, speak about selecting what to choose for and to shoot. Now these things were really well thought out. Don Hooker did all his probability stuff, and if it's written down somewhere, I wish somebody would dig it out. He talked about engineering probabilities on things, and that would include playfield layout stuff. And when you got a bingo game going and you got odds in this color are nice, and you've got a screen, and you've got numbers landing in holes, and you know you've got a automatic set here. Say I already got a set being 2, you need one more for a hit. But that number's a hard one to get. And then you got another set also. But that number's easier to get. The easier number doesn't pay as much. What do you do? I like that head kind of scratching stuff, man. I think it's cool. And it shows you how well thought out these things are. This is all player related, and the longer you play and the better you know the game, the more easier the decision comes for you. Now that said, it's a different thing when you're in the wild and there's money on the line. And I always played conservative. I very rarely played for extra balls. Very rarely.
That's a good way to lose money.
It is. I mean, that's what they were designed to do.
Yeah.
And so that extra ball play, that's like another game. You still got the same game up, but now you're back to playing the machine. You've decided, okay, you got to keep count of how much you got invested in the game.
Right.
And is the payout worth it? Now, my wife loves to play these things. She doesn't play my normal flipper games. She plays the bingos. And if there was a way I could set this thing up, she just got all the extra balls straight away and save her a lot of time because she didn't give it. She can have she'll go for extra balls when she doesn't even have a set. But it's all for fun because it's on free. Now, that said, these things are gambling machines. And I gamble once in a while. And I do it for fun. And it's not much money. And I'm in it for thrilling entertainment for a little while. And the gambling I do now is I bet on horses once in a while. I haven't done it in a long time. I'm way overdue. It's fun. It's a thrill. And I get the biggest thrill in horse racing. If my horse gets close and he's right up in there and then loses, I got a big charge out of it. I think it's fun. And if he wins, it's just a bonus. It was like when I played bingo back for keeps. I like poker too, but I engage both of these rarely. I savor the build-up and anticipation of what's to come and what could be. Back in the bingo days, for some, gambling was the gambling issue was a devastating device. I met a guy, and I got stories about him too, and people he connected me with. That'll close the loop on a lot of stuff, including your bingo, Nick. This guy's name was Bill, started with an M. Last name started with an M. He lived over on the other side of the James River here in Richmond. And he used to play him. Well, he didn't play. He gambled on him, and he gambled hard. And I told him I had, I've got some games, man. You want to play like those? He said, no, I don't want to get anywhere near one of those things now because he's over his gambling addiction. He lost paychecks in these things. For him, it wasn't the challenge of the game. It was the gambling. And he lost so much, it's still a rotten thought for him. Kind of sad, man, because I think they're fun games. Now, sure, I'd rather hit than miss. For me, and like most bingo collectors today, it's the tension and thrills of the ride where the most sport is. The finish or crescendo, be it win or crash and burn, are added punctuation marks to what I view as an enjoyable ride. My guess is most people are like me, able to view gambling as an entertainment pastime and realize that going overboard on anything isn't usually a good thing. And so people that view these things as only as gambling devices, they're just missing a cool game. The checkers versus chess thing, it's so true. Between that and the I want it all, I want it now, and I want it fast stuff, aspect of modern society, I guess, is the other big part of it. Now, I got some general pinball related notes. Playing at home versus playing on location. We know most pinball games were designed to have adjustable features for gameplay. Factory settings were for location play in order to make money. I believe in this age there's more pinball tables in homes than there are out in the real world while making money. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm not positive, but it seems to me. I used to see them everywhere when I was younger. Now they're almost no place. When in a home setting, we have an option of adjusting these settings that were built into the game to make the games more fun-oriented rather than money-making oriented. Now, this is a disputed topic. You got people that, I keep mine on factory settings. That's how they came out, and this is a true statement. However, the game was designed with adjustable features. Adjusting these features to your personal liking isn't taboo. It was designed for it. So I say it's okay to be comfortable with knowing you're playing the game as it was designed, even if it's not on a factory setting. Again, this is personal taste stuff, and if you disagree with me, get in line. Most people in the world don't even know I exist.
Well, thank you,
and
Steve.
that's my article with a little bit of embellishment, and it's a shame about Pin Game Journal.
Well, I'm still hoping for the best there. I do wish him the best of luck, best of health. So
I wish somebody'd take over if it's not going to happen. But it is what it is, man.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, Nick, you've come a long way in a short amount of time. I don't think it's been 3 years, or it's close to it, or somewhere around there.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Well, yeah, it would have to be.
From never even heard of one to
having two, thinking of getting a third.
I told Nick after he got bit, and him being younger than me. How old are you?
32.
32. I'm 57. That he needs to carry the torch to younger people. Bingos are a big part of history, and this is what this podcast is about.
You got it.
And notice Nick's kind of he's a technical kind of guy, works on computers and that kind of thing.
I'm a nerd, you can say. It's okay.
Well, you're a nice nerd then.
Yeah.
I don't think of you that way. You can think of yourself however you want. You're probably right. Okay. And so he's going to try to preserve history just for this thing, just like Danny's doing. That said, I watched all this information that was on Old Binger's forum vanish.
Right.
And had it been transferred on some kind of, like Google appears to be connected to the Earth's core and somehow, and nothing will ever disappear. If it had been connected to that, that's good. But Phil's site, one day Phil's going to pass on. What's going to happen to his site? What's going to happen to all that stuff? Is somebody going to take it over? I don't know. It'd be great to find a place to put this stuff. I don't mean like screw it in a crate and take it off into the warehouse where Indiana Jones' Ark of the Covenant. Yeah.
Top men.
And, to be found later. That said, it's just pinball, and frankly, most people in the world don't give a flying wazoo about it anyway.
That's true. But, I find these games, I didn't understand them at all when I came over to your house. I had never seen one before. You patiently explained it. You let me take a break from it, come back several times, and then when I finally got it, I wanted to preach to the world here. So, shout it from the rooftops. And I have a ton of fun with these games. I'm able to put in all kinds of time playing them because they're in my house. And every game is unique that I play on Bounty. I mean, you'd think that the feature set would get old after a while. Like with any flipper game, you know what to shoot for, you know what you're doing, but every single ball is completely different on a bingo. And every game, therefore, totally different.
It's fascinating. Like I told Nick when we met, I have a gift for understatement. I have a gift for overstatement too, but usually it's understatement. If I say something's cool, I'm holding back. And that's on a lot of different stuff. My first pinball show after I bought Bikini and corresponded with Jeffrey. I think the Allentown show was due to come up, and I asked him if he was going to that. He said he didn't go to attend that show, but he attended the York show. And so I decided I'm going. I'm going to get my book signed from him. And I did. And I went up and met him. And so I head off to my first pinball show. It was cool, man. There's a bunch of neat stuff. And I found the bingos. He had told me he was bringing a can and a silver sails. And I hadn't played can at that time. And so I was looking forward to it. Well, when I got there, somebody had bought it. It was gone. But the silver sails was there. He didn't sell it. But we spent a lot of time on it playing. Now, we'd trade off. He'd play a game, I'd play a game. He'd play a game, I'd play a game. And I had built up a nice game. Could have been an okay I hit. And red letter. And I had nice odds. Credits on the machine to burn up. You can't get paid off, so you might as well burn them. And I had the yellow super section, and I think the odds were at 450. Well, I got 3 in the yellow super section.
So you got 240 replays.
Yes, because the super section, 2 counts as 3, 3 counts as 4, 4 counts as 5. Well, I tried, and I did that with extra ball. I don't remember. I think I got 3 of them, and then went after extra balls.
Now, did you push the R button before you went for extra balls?
No, I got a strategy on that when we're playing free play. I don't collect until afterward, after I get awarded the ball. Because they're free. But if you got games on it, it doesn't matter. If there's right. Games on the replay, I'll go on and collect it. Because back in the old day, I didn't do that, and I had hit, and I said, I'll collect after this shot.
Tilt. And
then I tilted the thing and lost. I was pissed. And so I'm playing this thing, and I can't get the third extra ball. It won't come. I'm getting a hernia. An extra ball. Trying to get an extra ball. And it won't give it up. And finally, it's like, okay, whatever, I'm done. And he's like, he didn't want to play. He was talking to his wife Carol then. That was before she passed. And so I get another game, build that up a little bit, and I shoot. And the first ball landed in the damn 20. Landed in the 24. The number I needed for 5 in a row. You see what you just did? He was like, gotcha, dig ya. I said, that's like, yeah, we're okay. And That was kind of cool. He feed me straight out of the gate. He still does it. And when I played back in the day, I was very conservative. That, like I said, 15 cents or quarter, something like that. That'd be it. Now this was on the corner of Forest Hill in Richmond, Virginia, on the corner of Buford Road and Forest Hill, and the place was called the Village Inn. And Earl ran the thing. There was a machine in the back. It was a silver sales cabinet with a Golden Gate glass in it. And
the games have the same features, so you can
interchangeable back glass.
Right.
Silver Sales does have a circuit or two that tightens it up. That the gate didn't have.
Right.
And so there's a gas station. Bullock's Amoco was right behind there, and one of the mechanics is a skinny black guy. He's real dark skinned. He's a real nice guy. He'd worked on our cars and stuff, family cars, and but he would come in there at lunchtime, and he was one of those players that fed the machine. This guy knew the machine. He could build up stuff. I never really fully understood all the features involved back then. And now, being a kid that pretends like he knows it all, I wouldn't ask anyone. But he'd get in there and he'd build up a game, and he would wait for us to play or cash out. And I knew he was on lunch break time schedule, but he'd build up a big game, and that sucker'd win money. He'd win almost all the time. He was good at it.
Wow.
And he would do stuff. He'd he'd have a set for a big hit, and what he would do is he'd have a hit. So you get a decent hit, a three in a section, and it was and the odds of when you get another ball in a color, it's worth it sometimes to feed and get it. He would not collect and use those credits to go for an extra ball. He would drop quarters in, and this was a quarter. It was a quarter, and he'd give you 5 credits. It had that feature added to it, and I never understood why until I owned one. He knew about the reflex unit that Walter Burnett invented, or Bernie, or whatever they called him. Bennett invented back in the late 30s or early 40s, whenever it was, for those first games. He knew that if he racked it up, he would have a harder chance of getting the extra ball. And that man played good. He was the best player I ever saw back in the wild. And there were guys that would come in there, and they were so tense, and they'd all play for big games, and I played small and would build up and try and use house money. I remember one time I was in there and I was milking it because I like playing. I'd be in there by myself for hours playing just, 1 nickel at a time or 2, just to play the game. Money winning was a bonus. I was in there one time and there was a line. It was in the back room. There was a machine was sitting over in the corner. And if you walked in the back room door, the machine was all the way to your right in the back wall corner. There's a couple of freezers right next to the door where you walked into the back room. It was narrow. If you went to the left, the restrooms over there, and then there's a back door. And there's 3 freezers, a bingo pinball machine, and a rack where there was supplies. This rack prevented the operator from getting the glass open to show us the insides. So we're sitting in the corner and we're playing this game, and sometimes there'd be people lined up waiting to play. And I waited in that line plenty of times and watched other people play. And I'm playing one day, and this guy says, "Shoot the extra balls. Go for it." I said, "It's not worth it." He wanted us to play. And so I said, "I make money on 4 in a row." He said, "Nobody gets 4 in a row." and I did my 9, 1, 2, 11.
You hit your combo there, huh?
And he's watching, and I just turned over and looked at him and pushed the R button while I was looking at him, and collected. That felt good. Here's the machine's yours, and that was a good memory. Now that said, that Golden Gate, I love that machine. Earl closed at 2. And, that's when he shut down, went home.
Oh, so you had to get there in the morning.
Yeah. It was morning or lunchtime-ish, and closed on a weekend. A lot of state cops go in there, and it used to make me nervous. They'd come in there for breakfast, and then in trooper uniform, and then they'd go in the restroom, and they'd look at us over there playing the bingo. And it made me nervous, and Earl would caution us, Anytime they were there, we didn't call him. And there was a time I remember coming back into Earl's one afternoon, and I go in, and Earl says, "Machine's broken, Steve." And I'm like deflated. I was so psyched. I hadn't played in a little while, And I said, "What happened?" He said, the glass broke. I'm like, "What the hell?" And I go back in there and I look, and the playfield glass is laying all down and everything. Man, well, there were some guys in the neighborhood that used to play, and that's who had turned me on to the things. One guy we used to call Jelly. And Jelly talked like this. He would talk like this, He was kind of trying cool, and when he'd smoke, he'd pull a cigarette away real quick kind of guy. And he had blonde hair, kind of short, kind of dry. He looked shifty, but he was pretty nice for the most part. I liked him. And we'd hang out and party. And he'd hang out with this other guy, and his name was Chuck. Now, Chuck had glasses, and he had kind of talked a little funny. It's almost like he slobbered. And so we would get... Jelly's name was James. I don't know how he ended up getting Jelly. But they call him Jelly. "Hey, Jelly." Because they use his tone. Now, Chuck was Slobberjaws. Now, these two guys hung out because Chuck would get talking so much, you get so excited, you have to, wipe his lips all the time. And so that's why we call him Slobberjaw. So it was Jelly and Slobber. Now, Jelly and Slobber, you had to watch them. They liked to play. Slobber loved going after the time tree. He loved hitting, his favorite column was 1, 19, 24, 23, and 8. He'd go after those. Jelly was I loved it when Jelly hit. If he made a hit, his hand, that ball, I think by the time the ball fell in a hole and the light lit on the back glass, his finger was pushing the R button. He was like, and instant.
Didn't want to lose it.
And it was cool looking. I kind of adopted that and did it often until I tilted. Anyway, that said, so these guys are trying to figure out a way to cheat the machine, and they're coming up with, well, we can drill a hole here, we can drill a hole there, and it turns out it's clad you can't. Well, they got the idea of a little at a time trying to dig a hole in the playfield glass was something. And they would work on it a little bit at a time for weeks. And, well, it's tempered glass. You can't do this. They got a little scratch going, and one day they said, well, we got sick of trying to work on this a little at a time. And that's how it broke. They told Earl that, we just popped it and the glass broke. And Earl, Earl believed it. He wasn't back there. He was up there cooking. And so I've gone in, and there's a machine. It's broken. And there's all this glass laying everywhere. And I'm looking at it, and I'm disappointed because I wanted to play. and so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just sit here for a minute because I don't have anything to do, and I'll lament, and I know the machine's going to go out and get shopped and cleaned out and all that. And, standing there looking, adjusting to, I can't play the game. It's busted. I don't know when it's coming back. Woe is me. So I'm standing there looking at the thing, and Earl's back in the diner, and I get an idea. I want a pinball out of this thing. They're lasting in the holes. There's a bunch of glass around. I dug out a pinball out of one of the holes. That wasn't easy either. I can't remember what I used. Could have been a pocket knife. I don't remember. A dime or something. And I got the pinball out. And I'm like, all right, Earl, well, the game's going away. I don't know when it's coming back, but I'll check in, Well, I think it took, I know it was longer than 2 weeks. It could have been 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It seemed like 7 million years, man. And because there were other games around. There was one down the other end of Buford Road at the Esso station. It could have been Exxon by then. But you didn't know the guys. They wouldn't let you play them. And I saw them a lot.
They wouldn't even let you play them if you weren't playing for keeps?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wouldn't let you touch them, huh?
Yeah, and they were like that several different places. There was one over here in Richmond. They had a whole line of them.
But they'd have them out in the open.
Yes.
But they'd say, whoop.
If they didn't know you were cool, they thought you could be a plant, Like they do cigarette things with Boy Scouts and stuff.
But if they're not paying you off.
That's what they did.
That's just what they
get run out of there. You can't play that. No, you can't play that. It's running when I was a kid. And, no, you can't play anything. I thought my middle name was No. Anyway, so I can't play. And then finally, I go in there. I actually used to go in there and eat, too. So I go in there for lunch or breakfast. I can't remember which. I used to get fried mashed potatoes for breakfast. It's killer, man. And
sounds healthy.
That was a place there. You didn't leave toast on your plate, man. You took a bite out of that toast. Because I'm pretty sure if you didn't, it would end up on somebody else's plate.
All right.
And anyway, so I get back in there, and the game is back. And it's the same game. And Earl says, I walk in, he says, Steve, the game is back. And I'm like, I'm doing a dance. And he says, so come on back. And I tell you, he did some stuff to it. And I come back, and it's all shiny. And it's, the rebound rubbers aren't all yellow looking now. They're all white and pretty. And he said, now, the guy, he went through it, made sure everything is working right, but he added a circuit that activates the red letter game, but only when you press the green button features thing. It won't do it on the other ones, but if you're playing for features, you can get that red letter game awarded. Now that said, back then I didn't know how to collect. I didn't know I was supposed to hold the frickin' button down. And so these stuff would come on and I didn't know what I was doing. And I could have won more money if I had, I guess, or, who knows. Could have spent more. But anyway, so that game would do that. And wherever the green odds were, if you played the green button, you got a chance of getting the red letter game. And I used to get it. And I think that one guy that was giving me a hard time for playing was in one time, and I said something about, I'd get it up to, I'd get the green odds up to guaranteed jump. And then I'd try the green button sometimes. And I would know by sense from playing that the game would be looser now because so much money had been put in it or credits have been played off. Because that's just something I learned from observation, and
without knowing about the reflex.
Correct.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
But you get a feel for it pretty quick.
Yeah, you did, and so I'm sitting there. He said, "You can't get any odds on that green thing." I said, "Well, this game does. There's something on it," and I'm pressing it a few times, and then all of a sudden, ding, 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 bleep, 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 bleep. You know how it does.
Yep.
You hit hold the R down on OK, and it goes all on up, and the guy's looking at me with his mouth open, and I said, "Told you." And I think I hit that one too. I can't remember, but that was cool. That was cool. But anyway, so I got this pinball out of that game when the glass was broken by Jelly and Slobber. I think Slobber was the one digging hard on it. Jelly was a little more reserved about that kind of thing. Yeah, you're a little more sneaky, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I got that pinball out of that thing, and I still have it. I've set it aside. I got it on this little brass or little Art Deco looking metal ring. It looks nice together. And I've kept it separate. It's sitting up on a shelf in the man shop. If you look on that slideshow, you could probably find it. Who the hell wants to? But I know that's an old original from the game I used to play back in the day. And I got thinking this morning, if I had been thinking, that I got one of the new balls out to check to see if these new bingo pinballs, 1/8 inch size, can be picked up with a magnet or not. Have you tried?
You have to buy non-magnetizable ones, and they're like, I think I did a price check the other day. They're like $7 a ball versus the normal 1 1/8, which are like $3 a ball or something like that. And those you can pick up with a magnet. And if they magnetize, I had a problem on Double Up when I was fixing that. Where the shutter board was misaligned just slightly. It was under the little retainer clip.
Okay, yeah.
And the balls, as they would come down, would get magnetized on the left-hand side
from
of the
striking
top.
that. How about that?
Yeah. So if I landed 1 in 1, for example, and then another ball came by, it would just mate up to it. It would sister up. That was pretty frustrating. So,
well, I had that happen on my Lord of the Rings pin. That's the only DMD solid state game I've got.
But that game has magnets in it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's surprising that doesn't happen more often.
Well, the bingos have, I was told they had brass balls. I like that term. And they do. And Don Hooker, in his interview, confirmed that. So I was going to just check and see what the heck
they were made
I've
of.
got, new ones in mine, and I got the old one from the old days sitting there. I guess that I got a tin with old pinballs in it that I give away to my kitchen clients to put in their junk drawer. I said, "Here you go.
Here's a starter.
Put this in your junk drawer, and when you run across it, think of me and smile." And that's the only thing I can come up with doing besides, taking them to a scrapyard or something. I ain't gonna do all that. It's a nice token for stuff to remember. But I still got that ball from that machine way back then, and we had a lot of good times back in there. I mean, we spent hours playing that thing, and at low odds, or step out of the way and let other guys play after we hit, because we knew they'd pump it in, the reflex would go back down, but we didn't know it was a reflex. We just knew
That's how the machine was. Yeah.
And God, we had a ball. We would tilt the machine. By tilt, I mean we'd give it a slant so it favored coming down the left side of the play field, the non-shooter landing. So it would come down on 1, 8, 14, 19, 23 side. And that's because that was easy hitting.
Right.
All that stuff was easy hitting. For the OKs, for the red stuff, and I thought it was great. We did that, and we had it just enough, and that was just something we did with that machine. Now the other stuff we do is we take cans. Now cans now are really flimsy aluminum. They were a little thicker back then. They'd just gone to pull tabs. They'd gone from needing a church key can opener thing to a pull tab. And we take a can, pretty stout, and wedge it behind a wall. Between that and the game, that'd give us a little extra support for shaking. And I can't recall if this thing was on one of those stupid cast iron cradles or not. I don't think that it was, because I can't remember. We should have taken pictures and stuff of that back then, but we didn't. But they were everywhere. And I used to see them when I was a kid. I started writing a book about these things. I sent you a copy of like the first story, my first time seeing them. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that now, but I saw them in a lot of places when I was a kid, and you know, it's fascinating. I just, I always liked pinball machines. As a kid, you didn't have any money, so you couldn't play. Parents said, "It's throwing money away," but it's pretty lights, it's pretty colors, it's a game, I want to play it. You can't, so when I got a little bit older and could cut grass and that kind of thing, get money, I would play pinball with it. And this was in the late 60s when I could start doing that kind of thing. And instantly that's what I would do. Now, I lived in Hampton, Virginia, down near Norfolk, in Chesapeake Bay and all, and we lived not far from the water at all. I could cut through this farm behind us and get over to I think it's Queen Street or King Street, I can't remember. It's a road that went across Back River, or Little Back River. It went over to Langley Air Force Base. They had a guard station at the end of the bridge. And there were, being near that Air Force Base, there were bars on the civilian side of the river of that bridge. And Pops was one, and then there was a couple of others. And they had pinball machines in them. Well, Pops had a bingo in the back. He wouldn't even let us. We'd go in there, buy a Coke, or get the heck out of there. And then that was it. And that was the closest to where we used to go crabbing. I would crab off this old train trestle and catch a... And we'd take a string and a chicken neck and throw it in the water, and a crab would come along, and he'd pull it in real slow and put this long-handled net and scoop the crab up, put him in a bucket. Get a bucket of crabs. Well, I would take this bucket of crabs after being out there all day, and I'd go down. I wouldn't go to Pops because he was a jerk. And I'd go down to this other place, this other restaurant bar thing, and it was empty because it was during the day. Everybody working. And there's a lady in there that ran the place, and I would sell her my bucket of crabs for $1 or $1.50, something like this. And then I'd buy Cokes and play the pinball machine. She had a teacher's pet in the back, and I loved that game. I almost bought one here the other day.
In fact, that was the plan for today, wasn't it? Yeah,
that was the plan for today, was go get it, but I got hurt, and that's another story. Nobody wants to hear that. Talking about pinball. And so I would play that teacher's pet. I'd feed that, and then they would have some wedge heads at the barbershop, a couple of, just down the way a little bit. And we'd spend a lot of time in there, too. My brother would go. He's younger. He was younger. He still is younger. 20 months. And he didn't care for the pinball that much. He liked pitching bat games. We played the bowling alley. And I think he really liked the bowling alley games most, I think. And I'd play that teacher's pet, and he'd be playing that this small ball bowler. I can't remember how long it was, the length of it. And I'd go through, burn up my 3 games. It was a dime a game. Teacher's Pet was a dime a game or 3 for a quarter, you know. And I'd go through my money up there playing that bowling game for a dime a game, you know, 10 frames plus whatever extra he got. And he got his money's worth out of it.
Yeah.
And I said, man, there's something to that, but I just love pinball, man. I just said, I always did. And so I would play them whenever I could, whenever I could. Well, when you're young, you just don't have enough money to do that kind of thing. And they were everywhere then, man. They were everywhere. And I played all the time, anytime I saw them, anywhere, and they were all over the frickin' place. And then the solid state era came, and I got kind of annoyed. I got annoyed that, one, well, they all went up to a quarter, and I got annoyed that when they went to 3 ball instead of 5 ball, and, you know, I'm getting gypped. Now, that said, I used to go to, in Hampton, it was a rare event, but we would go to Buckrow Beach Amusement Park. This is where I rode my first roller coaster. And they had all kinds of stuff. They had a skee ball thing, you know, the old electromechanical skee balls. They had a big row of those. They had a shooting gallery where you shot 22 shorts, real rifles at metal targets and the back thing there, and you would shoot moving ducks and little things that looked like a pipe sticking up, and you knock them down. And I can't remember what it cost. It was like a quarter for 10 shots or something like that. I don't remember.
It must have been rough to be the attendant for that thing.
Well, he'd sit over on the side, you know, and
just thinking of the noise.
Load you up, and the 22 shorts are not that loud, but I guess he's hard of hearing by the end of it. And so those were cool, but I didn't get to do that as much because that cost a little extra, and if you did a bunch of that, you couldn't, you know, skee ball was 10 cents. You could play that or do the bowling game for that. But they had a penny arcade, and that's what it said, penny arcade. And I've been trying to find pictures on the internet. I've contacted the City of Hampton Chamber of Commerce or somebody else down there. I can't remember exactly who I contacted, trying to find photographs of the thing. I can find photographs of the amusement park. I can't find anything of the inside of that arcade. It was full of pinball machines. They had one room full of old wood rails and old games. They had all stand-up, a bunch of stand-up stuff and crane games. They had gun games out the wazoo. And I'm like, gun games? This isn't the same. Well, you're going to shoot a fake gun when you can go over here and shoot the real one. This was it. Now, I thought it was a jip. But they had little mutoscope. You can go up and put a penny in it. Mm-hmm. And crank the handle. And they show some girl dancing. And right when she's getting ready to take the top off, the thing stops, you know. And I thought that was kind of it. So the stuff was penny, nickel, and dime. And they had this one bigger machine that was a quarter. And inside it was a movie projector inside. It was a peep show. And it was a quarter. And it wasn't too far from where you got your change, a little booth thing, gate where the guys have them change. So I had $1 and I went and got it 4 quarters. And I waited around and I looked around and I plugged a quarter in this thing to watch this girl, and there's a woman and she was dancing and she took off her top and you could see everything, and it was in color, and she was jiggling, and I went through $1. I saw the whole thing, and then I'm like, wow, you know, hell, was I 12 or 13 or something. I know these guys. I remember they were purposely not looking at me, and so it's like, well, I was a 12 or 13-year-old adolescent. Where's the bathroom? I get over here and find the bathroom's locked, man. Well, I really did have to pee. I really did.
Sure.
They had locked the bathroom because they knew where I was on that thing, and they would not let me go. This is true. And so I never forget that. That was pretty funny thing. Yeah, pinballs were on location. Bingos were all over the place. And I know a couple guys around town that used to play, and I might see if they're willing to tell their story. I record them or something on my cell if you want to give that a go. I don't know.
Sure, we'll figure it out.
But I've talked your ear off enough for one session. I think I got other stuff I can tell you after I got into bingo that's cool. One thing that I really treasure, I've got it here with me right now, is Jeffrey's second book. Now I alluded to this on one of my stories I wrote on Danny Leach's Bingo Pinball website. And I know I've got at least about 20 pages of stuff I've sent him. It could be higher.
I was just reading that the other day.
And
lots of good stuff on there.
This one show that I took a pinball to and set up in my room, Jeffrey got his second book. He got copies of his second book, The Bingo Pinball War, United versus Bally, 1951 through 1957, Schiffer Publishing. The publisher sent him 2 copies of his pre-release copies of his book, and he brought that to the show, and we were like the first to see it besides him and whoever else happened to be nearby. I think that was when his buddy Sal was there, so we would have seen it. Very few people laid eyes on it. They sent him two, and I was like, man, give me this. Come on, I want this one. It's pre-released. What a cool story. And he was reluctant. Well, I wrote my little write-up on the show and letting what we did and the fun we had, and wanted the news of the book to get out there because I happened to be in the right spot at the right time. And after Jeffrey wrote that thing, he wouldn't give me the pre-release copy. Then all of a sudden, in the mail one day, this ugly package arrived. And I opened it up with some old box, and then it had Kroger shopping bags, duct tape all around it. And I keep going through layers and layers of man wrapping. And inside is a copy of Bingo Pinball War, the second book. And here on the second page, which is blank, is where he will sign your book if you get one. This is what is written. To Steve Smith, you are the lucky receiver of a pre-release copy of my new book. This book is from my publisher, October 9th, 2010, and is one of only 2 in existence. I have the other. Feel honored, my friend. Jeffrey Lawton. October 9th, 2010. I got chill bumps right now, man. I think very highly of this guy. He's a good man. He's a hell of a bingo guy. But better than that, he's a hell of a man. And that said, I don't know. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but so far in my lifetime, I'm the only person I've ever met that has a pre-release copy of a book from somebody. And I've got several books autographed by authors. This is a treasure. It's priceless to me. I'm honored. And Jeffrey, thank you again, mate. Good pal. That said, I'm gonna go visit him one day. I want to do a video, which I know he'll agree to. I wanted to go kind of drop down Dennis Dodell's place too, but I'm not sure if he'd be willing for that. Hugh Cone, think very highly of Hugh. I've sent him stuff. He sent me stuff. He would charge for things now. He didn't charge me anything for the last several things I've done. The last favor he asked of me, he wanted to put new catcher boards. This is where, when you dump your game, the balls land on this catcher board and are fed down to the trough. He wanted to put new ones in his restorations. And he knows I'm a cabinet maker. And he's like, Steve, would you do a drawing of these things for me? So I did. It took me a little while to do. I got a scaled drawing, plan view, cross sections, side view, all the dimensions, all the angles are noted, and it fits and works on any Magic Screen game. He was elated, man. I sent that thing to him. He said, man, you know what you're doing. I said, yeah, I've been trained drafting a little bit. He's an engineer, and so coming from an engineer who's working in, thousandths of an inch, and me 132nd of an inch is tight tolerance. Usually 64th of an inch. That's quite an honor. But Hugh has not been responding to calls or emails, and I'm concerned about it. He's having some health issues from time to time. I've had no response. Jeffrey hasn't heard from him. Phil out in Denver hadn't heard from him. I'm concerned. I'm going to try him some more, but I just don't know what's going on with that. And that's a great loss. Hugh knows a lot of stuff. He learned from Jeffrey, and Jeffrey admits that Hugh passed him in ability. That's quite a statement coming from the man that wrote from that book. Hugh and I conversed through electronic mail for a while, then on the phone, and we'd call each other once in a while, just check in, and then we have to talk about bingos at some point, but usually it's about this or that. And I'm really concerned about his health issues. All his bingo people are getting older, man. He is 70, and so I'm leaving it there. I don't know what's going on with that. If I get updated, I will relay it to the bingo community as soon as I have some kind of word.
Please do. Yeah.
And other than that, the guys over there in the Bally Bingos in Britain place, they're super nice.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Howard, man, he's a walking encyclopedia. He should have written a freaking book. I told him that years ago. I haven't spoken with him, but we've through the news board and some private messaging things. He's got a sister that lives in Toronto. He's coming over to visit, and he was asking if Richmond's anywhere near there. And I'm like, no, I'd love to have you over, man, but that's quite a trip. But come on if you want. Yeah. And I thought about heading over there for one of their gatherings because I couldn't get in. I tried getting a bingo pinball tournament set up over here. I got zero freaking response from anybody. And so it's just, everybody's got their own stuff to do. I get it. And, trying to gather up to go to a show is enough. If there was more pinball shows, I'd love to go to them, but you can only do so many things. For heaven's sake, you got family vacations and other stuff too to consider. You can't just be wrapped up in this all the time. And so anyway, I think I talked your ear off enough for this session. I've got other stuff I want to tell you that's cool, but I will wait that for another time if you're willing to put up with me again.
Heck yeah. Well, Steve, I want to thank you both for coming out today and talking, but also introducing me to this world and everything in it, everybody. I've never met a bad bingo guy.
I talked Nick into going to his first pinball show. Right after that, I don't even think he had a pinball yet.
No, I don't think so.
And and then so his first show. Had you been bitten by the bingo bug then? I don't recall.
I spent a lot of time on them because Jeffrey brought a Magic Squares game.
I think you had been bitten then.
Yeah.
But he's like, Nick comes in his first pinball show after only, before even owning a game. I said, "You got to go, man. You got to go." And so he did, and he spent the night in our hotel room. I bought a game and set it up in the hotel room, and he and Jeffrey are in there fiddling with it, and it's like, we got the Alpha and the Omega, the newest pinball guy, I know, and the oldest pinball guy. Well, he was older, but anyway, I thought I got the biggest kick out of that, and I'm joining this stuff, and Nick is passing the baton to this guy. We got to send him stuff. We got to somehow see if we can keep a thing going for the few of us, the few that will take interest in the future generations. And I just think it's cool, and I'm glad I had a part of it.
Yeah. Well, it's all about information, and that's what this is all about. Just getting that information out to people who otherwise wouldn't have any inroad for it. And I know there's tons of information on the web, and of course you've pointed me to it all, but it can be difficult to find if you don't know the machines even exist, which I certainly didn't. So,
well, thanks for having me. If you'll have me again, I'll come up with some new crap. Well, not craps, just stories.
Good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Only the best.
No, just stuff. Try to make it interesting. I don't know if I was interesting or boring anybody to death, but it's all true. No brag, just fact, is the old.
I'll punch it up with special effects. It's okay. Well, Steve, you want to play some bingo here? While I got you?
I got one arm, man. So it'd be like playing a one-arm bandit. Ah!
Well, that's why I need to get a hi-fi, because you can nudge the table with the button.
Well, I've created a monster. I'm going to the magic screen and see what happens. I gotta feed it. You gotta give me money. Are you paying off?